Thank you for coming again. I'll introduce myself real quick. My name is Arshdeep Singh. This is my second year now at ODAC, the Oregon Donation Awareness Corporation. We're ba mainly based out of New York, at least the group that I work with. And basically, we're just trying to raise awareness about organ donation and a lot of the aspects of it that people don't know about, especially high school students, because they're the ones getting their licenses and opting to opt in for organ donation. And that's basically everything about me. And I'll turn the mic to you and ask you to introduce yourselves, tell us about yourselves, please.
First. Yeah, I'm Mark Scotch. Live in Wisconsin, been here all my life, and married to Lynn. And she's we went to high school together, last couple of years of high school. So we've been together a long time. So we have 3 kids, they're all growing, and we have 3 grandkids.
So you said that you're a living donor, both of you, I believe, right? And so if you could just tell us like what inspired you to become living donors and what motivated you.
Well, it definitely was not on our bucket list. We hadn't been thinking about it. Although we had a sister-in-law that had donated previous, but we never learned anything about it, to be honest. We just know that she donated to a high school friend. But knowing that she donated, I guess, and she was healthy, as soon as I met somebody, I met a individual in Louisiana. We were on our way to Texas from Wisconsin, and we stopped in at for a place for dinner and maybe a cocktail at the end of the day. And I started talking to this individual at this location and found out from him that he was on dialysis and he was needing a kidney and he was looking for a kidney. And I instantly thought, well, maybe I could do this for him. So I said, well, I'll give you one of mine. And that's how it started. Just a complete stranger after about an hour conversation. And Lynn can tell you about how she got started on it.
Yeah, please.
When Mark went for his full day evaluation at the University of Wisconsin-Madison Transplant Center, I was able to go along and hear everything that he was hearing, watch the interactions with the coordinator and the different people that he met that day. And while he was off having the final medical tests of the day, I was sitting in the exam room by myself thinking, I can't think of a single good reason why I shouldn't look into this for myself as well.
And so you did, and then here you are. That's amazing. I sort of did read like your Oregon Trail like website and all that. And I was wondering like what like you mentioned a voucher system in there, and I was wondering like how that maybe like did that influence your decision making process for either of you? Like how like sort of how did the process of donating an organ affect your ability and desire to do so, if at all?
Well, originally, when I met this individual in Louisiana, I was told I had to go to Louisiana and do all this, to get evaluated, get tested, do everything down there. So I was looking at traveling from Wisconsin to Louisiana, which was going to be quite a commitment. And I started to learn about organ donation and on the internet, and I came across a stat that said that 13 people die every day waiting for a kidney transplant. And neither Lynn or I knew that. And it just blew us away that there was that much of a need. And I like to bicycle. I like to bike a lot. And I was considering doing some rides as all these trips I was planning on taking to Louisiana. I was going to do some bike riding along the Mississippi River on some of these trips. I just do that naturally. Wherever we go, I look for opportunities to mountain bike or do some biking. So I was kind of putting together a ride, and then as soon as I read 13 people die every day, it just something flashed in my brain. So why don't there's got to be more people that don't know about the fact that 13 people are dying, that there's this urgent need. So I thought, why don't I turn that into an awareness ride? So that's how the Oregon Trail started, was just by thinking, let's try to share more with more people this need. And so when that started, then I ended up contacting the National Kidney Registry, because it seemed like when I was on the internet, I kept finding very good information from their website. And I contacted them about my Oregon Trail ride. And through them, I met a gentleman by the name of Ned Brooks, who is at the time was an organization called Donor to Donor. He's an older gentleman like myself, had donated a kidney, and he put together an organization to help donors help each other, mentor donors to learn about donation and how to go through the process. And I contacted Ned, or the National Kidney Registry actually had him contact me. And he's the one who told me about the voucher program. I didn't know anything about it. And as soon as I heard about the voucher program from Ned and he explained it to me, it just made so much sense, especially in my case. I was able to do everything in Madison, only 90 miles from my home versus thousands of miles. So that's how we learned about the voucher program. And so I donated a kidney, and my kidney actually went to somebody in New York because that was the best fit within the NKR network of transplant centers. And by doing that, I was able to give Hugh Smith in Louisiana this voucher, which gave him priority on the NKR wait list. So as soon as I gave him that voucher, it put him to the top of the list. They started looking for a kidney for him because my kidney went in, one can come out, and his came out from Southern California. So we covered Wisconsin to Louisiana, New York to California, just on one donation through the voucher program.
That's incredible. And does your wife have a similar story, or
So Mark went for his full day evaluation in July of 2020, and that's when I decided that I would also explore this whether I was able to donate a kidney as well. But we knew we wanted to wait a little bit until he had his donation date, and of course I would be his caretaker. So once we got that all lined out, then I started the process for myself and went through the evaluation process, was put on the National Kidney Registry list as a donor. That was in early November of 2020. And within a week, I had a call from my coordinator. I thought she would be telling me that they had found a match, but what she was telling me was that they had temporarily suspended the living donor surgeries because of COVID. And they thought they would be suspending that until February of that year, of the following year. So I missed my opportunity at the beginning of November. And then in January, I had COVID, a mild case of COVID. About the same time I had a positive test, my coordinator called to say that they were going to start up the program. They had a match for me, and could I do a surgery in February of 2021. Because of the COVID diagnosis, we had to wait and reschedule that surgery until March of 2021. I went to the hospital, got the final blood tests and things done, and they discovered that my platelet level had dropped significantly since the original evaluation, which I found out is something that can occur in people who have had COVID. Because platelets are essential for blood clotting, even though I was in no imminent medical danger myself at that point, the transplant centers are so protective of their living donors that they declined to do the surgery. So my surgery was canceled, and the university hospital put me through some extensive testing with their hematology department to make sure that I did not have any serious condition that needed to be treated. They followed me along for 18 months with monthly blood draws to check my platelet level. And after about 18 months, my platelets popped back up again for whatever reason. And they put me back on the donor registry. And I knew once they gave me the green light that I could go ahead with a donation, I knew that I wanted to use the voucher because in essence, it doubles the gift. Somebody gets the actual kidney and another individual gets the voucher that gives them priority on the wait list for a living kidney. And a living kidney is important for a couple of reasons. It generally lasts up to twice as long as a deceased kidney donation. And people can often have need less immunosuppressant drugs. So that's a plus in both ways. So people that we know knew of Mark's donation, they knew of our activity in the donor environment, and a mutual friend made us aware of a little boy in Minneapolis who had been born with chronic kidney disease and had been on dialysis since he was 8 months old. And I had some phone conversations with his mother and made the decision that he would be my voucher recipient. So I donated a kidney finally in January of 2023, and little Cooper received his kidney on March 2nd of 2023.
Wow, that's very recent. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Those are incredible. And I guess you sort of mentioned that you were a caretaker for your husband, Mr. Scotch. And how did that like influence your decision to want to be an organ donor yourself? Did you see the recovery process, and like how was it for both of you, I guess, here? Like how was the recovery process? How like family, like what was it like having someone there? And maybe what do you recommend to people who are thinking about going through a similar process, but are worried that they might not have that same sort of caretaker with them?
Well, I actually was not able to be in the hospital with Mark during his donation because of COVID. So I dropped him off at the door of the hospital very early the morning of his surgery and picked him up about 26, 27 hours later. He stayed only one night in the hospital. And so I drove us home the 90 miles, and he really had very little recovery. They, of course, because it's an abdominal surgery, they don't want you to lift anything more than 10 pounds for about 6 to 8 weeks. But other than that, recovery was pretty uneventful. I actually went out for a walk one morning, a couple weeks into his recovery, and came back and noticed that the lawn had been mowed. Which of course he wasn't going to tell me he was going to do, but took the opportunity of my absence to go out and mow the lawn.
They said you could walk as much as you want, so I thought I'll just walk around the lawn a lot with pushing a lawnmower.
Yeah, birds out with one stone.
Yeah, so my recovery was good, but Lynn's was even better. I mean, I was her caretaker, and she opted to spend 2 nights because I probably should have spent 2 nights. The drive home for me, those 90 miles were kind of tough, and I thought I was feeling pretty good, so I was kind of getting off the painkillers, and I really shouldn't have. I kind of went off a little early, and we learned from my mistake that Lynn just took an extra day, and she came back and she was fine. She did very well.
And they actually sent me home, as far as medication, only with 500 milligram Tylenol. And I took that for about a week. Advice for somebody who is looking into donation, I guess, would be pay attention to what your coordinator and your medical people are telling you. Listen to your body. The typical stay is 1 to 2 nights, but they leave that decision, at least at our hospital, very much up to the donor. If you feel you need to be there another night, then they're happy to accommodate you. As I stated earlier, they're extremely protective of their donors, and they're going to do everything to make you feel comfortable. Ask questions ahead of time, ask questions post-surgery. get comfortable with whatever you need to know to take care of yourself.
Living kidney surgery, as far as I know, is pretty much all laparoscopic. So there's very little, there's a small incision they have to make either in the belly button or just below it to actually get the kidney out. But everything else is laparoscopic, so it's very invasive.
Yeah, that definitely. And during like the, I guess, pre-donation period, like as you're doing your research, because you mentioned there's only one family member that had organ donation before, but then you didn't really know much about it still. Were there any myths that you heard about or like experienced yourselves going through this process? And how did you sort of bust them or find out like, oh no, that's wrong?
Well, I really didn't have any myths. I just knew that you could. Lynn and I both, I guess, assumed that anybody that needed a kidney just magically got one from somewhere. We both had signed up when we started driving cars back in the mid
Stone
70s.
Age.
We both were deceased owners on our driver's license. That's something that we learned about very early. But beyond that, we really didn't have any preconceived negative or positive. I just didn't know that there was such a need. One thing that when we finally told our three boys that I was going to donate, there was concern about, well, can you keep doing what you've been doing? Can you keep, I've been really active on bicycle, doing a number of different things. And that I couldn't answer that question until I talked to more people, and I found an organization called Kidney Donor Athletes. And through that, I found other people that had donated that went right back to what they were doing. And so the Oregon Trail, besides being an awareness vehicle, if you will, we also try to demonstrate that, hey, you can donate a kidney and still do what you were doing before. So I've been riding bicycle across the United States to demonstrate that. And I've have no ill effects. So I guess, to answer your question, I really didn't have any ideas, but I learned there were some, and talking with other people, they come up with questions, and we've been mentoring people for the last 3 years about our experience and try to help them through some of those questions.
One of the biggest myths that we realized after Mark did a lot of research, and we would see people who were, whether on Facebook or other social media or billboards or whatever, they would indicate that they were looking for a kidney transplant, and they would be asking for people of a certain blood type, which always made us kind of cringe, because with something like the voucher program or a paired exchange program, you don't need to match the individual that you're trying to help. You just have to be medically eligible to donate. Your kidney will go into a pool and go to the best match, which is very important to have a good match. You can still help that individual even if you're not a medical match for them.
Yeah, the voucher makes it so much easier as a donor to donate. You don't have to worry about being a match. You can pick when you want to have your surgery, because you're not dependent on anybody else's schedule. When you have paired exchanges, they all have to, whether it's a 4-person exchange, 2 pairs or more, they all have to kind of match up somewhat. So the voucher program just makes it so much easier. And my kidney went to the best match of the NKR, which at the time was 98 different transplant centers across the United States. Well, that means it's a much better chance of getting that match, that best match available. And that's so critical for the recipients.
Absolutely, definitely. And I guess like this has been a subtle sort of theme, I guess, throughout all these questions. Like how's your life changed since your organ donations, and I guess how does it keep changing after Miss Scotch's organ donation in January of last year? So just talk about that a little. And yeah.
Well, it's changing in the way, I guess I'm riding bike in a lot of areas where I never thought I'd ride bike. The Oregon Trail has taken me from Wisconsin to Louisiana by bike. and then Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts back to Wisconsin. And then I rode from, because Hugh, my individual that I met in Louisiana, got a kidney from Southern California. I rode my bike basically from San Diego to New Orleans by bicycle. So all on one kidney, and we create a lot of media attention. We were noticed by the Today Show, and we were on the Today Show this last April. So that happened. So we're doing a lot of public speaking that we never thought we were going to be doing. As far as health-wise, I'm fine. Matter of fact, I even went out and donated my liver, part of my liver, about 6 months ago. So I'm a double donor. So that was probably one of the biggest things that happened after kidney donation was I decided to try to donate part of my liver as well.
I think that's very rare where someone says my life has changed because I donated again after that. People say, oh, I did it and then I'm done. But no, you're like, no, I gave some more. That's incredible.
Well, my philosophy was all through the Oregon Trail, Lynn and I both, we just encourage people to get evaluated. We don't, to become a living kidney donor is such a personal decision. We don't try to, talk people into becoming donors. That's not what we do. But we just encourage people to get evaluated. So I basically took my own advice and went to see if I could donate part of my liver, and I passed. So
That's incredible. Thank you. And I guess I sort of asked a similar question earlier, but like what parts of your journey do you wish like really want future organ donors to know about and consider before they donate and decide to donate an organ? I know Miss Scotch said like asking questions and trusting medical professionals, but like are there other things that they should pay attention to or consider before entering this world?
Well, as far as physical ramifications, the only restrictions that we have on an ongoing basis is we cannot take the family of drugs of which ibuprofen is probably the most common. So in medical terms, they're called NSAIDs, non-steroid anti-inflammatories. If you need to, you can take Tylenol or something like that. That's really the only physical restriction. And a very basic question for people that are considering following through with organ donation, particularly kidney donation, is what if I would need a kidney later in life myself? If you are a living kidney donor, you are protected under National Kidney Registry has a program. Some hospitals have their own programs, but you're going to be given priority on the wait list for a living kidney donation yourself, should you ever need one. National Kidney Registry has facilitated over 8,000 kidney transplants. It's a remarkable organization. They've never, when they're tracking a kidney to get to a transplant patient, they've never lost a kidney. They've always delivered successfully, and they make sure that they've never had a kidney donor, living kidney donor, that down the road needed a kidney to this point. And I think they're going on almost 15 years now. Another thing that's important for people, because we were retired, it was easy for us to make that time commitment. But there are a suite of protections that are in place for individuals. And those include things like if you lose income from work because of your recovery period, they will provide reimbursement for those lost wages. They will provide reimbursement for a number of things. There are also typically for a donor, there are not many expenses. All of the medical expenses are covered under the recipient's insurance. If there are some outstanding things like mileage back and forth to our hospital, for instance, if you don't live locally, those can all be reimbursed under various programs that are in place. So kidney is probably the most they have developed the most programs to help that living donor, both with the transplant and post-transplant.
Yeah, there's yeah, our life really hasn't changed physically. Like Lynn said, if one of us would ever need a kidney, or anybody that's a living kidney donor, we're covered if we would ever need one. Although, you know, that 8,000 people that have donated through the NKR, that's a testament to their network of 100 hospitals and transplant centers that do the evaluations, make sure that you're healthy enough to live on one kidney. That's the key. And they're, like Lynn mentioned earlier, they're very, very protective about that. And I think the record proves that. So if I was going to advise somebody about if they were looking into kidney donation, it's just a personal choice. It is surgery. Things can happen, but I think I read somewhere that it's about the same amount of risk as dying canoeing, going on a canoe trip. So there is danger, but it's very minimal. Liver was a little trickier. It's a little bit more involved, but for kidney, it's very safe. I hate to use the word routine, but to be honest, that's what it seemed like to me. It was the transplant centers have it down. They do this every day. They know exactly what they're doing. So it is somewhat routine.
And I think I can speak for both of us when I say we just felt what greater thing could you do for another human being at so little negative impact on ourselves. But we just couldn't come up with anything more valuable than that.
Yeah, I mean, our times of you know, giving to different charities, doing things, our time, whatever you want to count. I mean, there's nothing that compares to donating a kidney that we see. I mean, has the most impact not only on the person that needs the kidney, but their entire family.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how many people, you know, for every person on the kidney wait list that's on dialysis, there's so many people that are affected by that, by their family, that it changes so many people's lives, just one donation.
Absolutely. And as you said, the voucher program kind of makes it two in a sense, like saves two people.
Yeah.
Um,
One kidney goes in, one comes out, but two people are definitely ultimately affected by it.
yeah. And is there anything else you'd like to share about your journey, the Oregon Trail, which is incredible and very inspiring? And I really like that, the Oregon Trail. It's very unique, and definitely in the future, if I would, you know, donate a kidney, that's not something I would consider saying is like, I don't think I can return to doing what I love, like physically, because you've obviously proven otherwise. Um, so thank you. And so if there's anything else you'd like to share, um, in these final moments, the please feel free.
Well, the Oregon Trail itself, we're going to be doing a ride this June, and it's going to be highlighting Lynn's donation. Her kidney actually went to somebody in Illinois, very close to us. Mine, of course, went to New York, but hers went to Illinois, and then her voucher recipient is Cooper in Minneapolis. So we're going to do a bicycle ride that encompasses Wisconsin to Illinois to Minnesota back to Wisconsin.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yep.
And of course, thank you so much for making it.